good afternoon. Probably it's going to be afternoon by the time you see this video, but this is Tired Metalhead Weatherman. Hope you guys are doing well this Sunday. Well, I mentioned yesterday that I might make a video, but some things have definitely changed, and it pretty much almost warrants me making a video. One thing is this joker right here, this enhanced risk that we've had develop here. I mentioned in yesterday's video, the link to that will be in the top right corner here, that there was a tornado threat, and now they have increased the damaging wind threat, so now we're looking at an enhanced risk for this area. I'm expecting storms fire in this area pretty soon. It looks like there's a little bit of rain right now even, but I do not think this is the main event at all by any stretch of the imagination. There's no warnings up right now, but we will be watching over the next few hours or so for severe weather to be unfolding here shortly. So we will first go over today, and we'll also go over tomorrow's threat. There is a slight risk for it, so I figured why not knock out two birds with one stone. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at all of the hazard types. We'll start out with the tornado threat. Not too much has changed. If anything, looks like this slight risk for the tornado threat has gotten a tiny bit smaller, but it's a little bit more defined. Mainly around western New York towards the Great Lakes is where we're going to be looking at in particular. In areas mainly to the north and east of Cleveland. We might have a little bit of activity too over towards northwestern parts of Pennsylvania. You guys will have to be on the lookout. And then of course our 2% threat is sitting around southern Michigan, parts of central Indiana, and maybe north central Ohio, I would say. So we'll be on the lookout for some possible tornadic activity here today. And the main threat here is the main reason we have the enhanced risk is for the increased damaging wind threat. Again, it's in the same region as our increased tornado threat, but beyond that, nothing else has really changed. So we'll be looking here. Also, just keep an eye out on the marginal risk for wind around the plains today. It's not a huge severe weather threat, but I'd feel wrong if I didn't say anything about it. And the same thing can be said around parts of Arizona, Tucson, and Phoenix. You might have to watch out for some windstorms, maybe even a haboob, who knows. I don't really think it'll be that, but just thought I'd bring that up. But anyway, we also have the marginal hail threat. That much has not changed. This is definitely looking like the wind maker and tornadic type of storm. So that's pretty much all we got for today. Now when we go to tomorrow, the threat shifts more towards the Long Island region and towards the mid-Atlantic and parts of the Delmarva. When we look at the tornado threat, it's mainly the Long Island region that I'm looking at the most right now. There's not really much more not really many more areas that seem too conducive, if at all. Not saying that it can't happen, but this is where our greatest area of interest is right here. So basically New York City, Boston, Springfield, Mass. We're looking at you guys for a potential tornado threat tomorrow, albeit a minimal one. Of course, the main threat is the damaging winds, and this is a lot more widespread as far as the marginal threat is concerned. We'll keep an eye out even from pretty much from Maine all the way to the border here, even pushing towards eastern Kentucky, and then pushing into Nashville too even. We'll have to watch out for some potential damaging winds. No, it's a marginal risk, but the chance isn't zero. Same thing can be said around the north central plains. There's a small chance of maybe a damaging windstorm. We'll have to see if that gets upgraded. And of course, the minimal threat, the hail threat, is the minimalistic threat, the minimal of the three hazards here. Mainly centered around New York City and the Long Island region. So now that we've gone over that, let's look at some parameters here. We're going to try to keep things kind of brief. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the surface-based cape, especially considering that there is a little bit of a tornado threat over the next couple of days. We'll kind of hash all that out real quick. You can kind of see the values, the cape values right here. It's about we're looking right about at our current time, to be honest. It's about noon, I would say. And we're sitting with cape around 2,500. Some areas even getting towards 3,000 and up. And values here, 3,000 joules per kilogram. And then as we go on throughout the day and into the evening, this cape seems to strengthen right about in this region here. It's a little bit further south than I would be looking, but this model is a little bit dated now, not too much. There's been a couple of newer model updates coming, but I'm trying to cover both days, so we're at 12Z still. And then as we get into the late night hours, these cape values, they seem like they're still trying to hang offshore. I'm actually more interested, or actually I might be looking at this wrong, maybe? Okay, yeah, I think I was looking at it wrong. I'm thinking of Monday's threat. Sorry, I got a little scattered brain there. But even over towards our main threat region, towards areas like Buffalo, we're still hitting towards that 2,000 to 2,500 mark, and maybe even a couple brief areas of 3,000. So looks like things are very suitable for a line of storms to come through. And there may be line segments where we could get these little kinks in there, and those kinks are going to be the areas where we could be watching for increased rotation and potential tornadoes. Most likely, the nature of these tornadoes will be quick spin ups. They'll be down, and they'll probably lift really quickly. But even if that is the case, even if these aren't long track tornadoes, they can still do a lot of damage in a short period of time. And these areas are a lot more populated than out in the Central Plains. So you do get caught under a tornado warning, take it seriously, because odds are you aren't going to have too much lead time. And now we're freezing. Okay, there we go. Now we're good again. All right, so now we're working our way into Monday night, or Sunday night, excuse me, and things have calmed down for the moment. And then once we get towards about noon again, we're looking at increased cape values, and the storms will start to pick up yet again. I think this is about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock. That's when our threat for severe storms is going to be greatest, around the northeast, around the Long Island region. I'd say probably by about 8, 9 o'clock, these storms will be just about out of here. And once we get into the early morning hours, just as these cape values are gone, these storms will probably go with it. So now we've looked at that. Take a quick look at the bulk shear real quick at the surface. And then after that, we'll take a look at the overall radar around this region, and that'll be that for the video. Taking a quick look at the time here. Hanging just at 8 minutes. Wait for the rest of my map to load here. So here's our shear diagram here. Just waiting for this to finish loading here. Everything wants to update all at once. Okay. So now I would say that we're looking at about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock yet again. And look at it, and we actually have a pretty decent shear compound here. Like we're looking at about 40, 45, maybe even 50 knots at some spots. So I mean, the environment is somewhat conducive for tornadic activity. The speed shear is there. I'm not too sold on the directional shear. We'll go ahead and actually take a quick look at that using this hordeograph, and there is some turning of the winds with height based off of where these wind barbs are, but it's not the most robust tornado threat though either. So we'll have to be really watchful over the next few hours to see just how this decides to unfold. Oh, this got a little bit too far ahead. Hang on a minute. Make sure I got this right. Alright, let's try that again. I think I got a little bit too far ahead. No, I had it right. Yeah, because I know how this computer likes to do a bunch of crazy stuff. I had to make sure I double checked and had it right. Didn't want to feed the wrong information here. On the backside of these storms, there's also going to be plenty of wind energy behind this. So just because you're seeing this shear compound in the Monday morning, don't think that you're necessarily under any sort of severe weather threat. That's one thing I want to also emphasize here, because it's very easy for people that don't know to think oh no, I have this 40 or 50 knot bulk shear or low level jet around my area. This means I'm gonna get a tornado. There's no storms there. It's not gonna. There's nothing there to take advantage of that energy. So that's nothing to be concerned with. And then of course, when we look into tomorrow afternoon, same thing. We have a little area where we're sitting at about 40, somewhere in between 40 and 50 knots. Not a super big tornado threat. Directional shear doesn't really seem to be there. But again, the chance isn't zero, so it's something we have to cover. And then when we look into late Monday night, most of this shear is gone. There's a little bit of wind energy that lingers, but beyond that, there's not really much to go off here as far as the tornado threat's concerned. No point at really looking at any other parameters here, so we're just going to go straight into what the radar could look like over the next 48 hours. So here's our little morning cluster of storms, and then as we look into the late evening, oh wait, hang on a minute, this went wrong. This actually has a weird look to it, to be honest. So here's our storms right here. This looks like it's a little bit further back than what I would be expecting. I think these storms will be here a lot sooner than that. Of course, this model run is a little bit dated now. But I think probably, to be honest, right about 8 or 9 o'clock is when I expect these storms to be here. Little clusters of storms, maybe some potential for weak supercells to pop up here. And that's where our tornado threat may exist. But I think it's going to be earlier in the evening, not later. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it being a overnight type of threat. And then we'll watch these storms kind of disintegrate over here and then redevelop tomorrow afternoon from the looks of it. And we have several little line segments that try to develop here, ultimately resulting in some scattered damaging winds and maybe a isolated tornado or two. Of course, once we get into the overnight hours, everything clears out, and Tuesday looks like it should be a relatively calm day for this region. That's pretty much all I got for you on this video here. Just thought I'd touch up on this severe weather threat real quickly. If you like what I did in this video, drop a comment, leave a like, share, of course subscribe. So help me grow the channel and help me get this information out to more people. But until the next video, this has been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. You guys have a good Sunday.